It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the very latest in property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course, wherever you get your podcast from. It is a Thursday morning. It is January the 11th today. The weekend isn't too far away if this has been the first week back at work. If it's the last week of your holiday, I guess the call is enjoy and squeeze the most out of the next few days. Now, here's a little bit of good news. The latest data is telling us there is a bit of a slowdown in inflation, dropping to 4.3% annually in November. It is the slowest since January of 2022. Housing, food and insurance continues as major contributors. No real surprise there. Analysts are suggesting, I'm not sure if I can believe this, but they are saying a potential RBA rate cut possibly as early as June, given the ongoing disinflation trend and market expectations. But let's not get too excited about that because we know within a couple of months things can change radically, but it is certainly heading in the right direction. Well, coming up this morning, once again, we are back to the time tunnel with our summer series of real estate podcasts. And coming up this morning, we are going to be talking to Peter Chant from Toogoolawah about the affordable rural lifestyle there. Asti Madiasmo is in and she's talking about affordable livable suburbs with median prices. And we catch up with Anthony Landahl, our mortgage expert, and he is talking from earlier in the year back to June of last year, talking about all of the rate rises. So that is on its way next.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week. We look forward to 2024 with more real estate stories and more property news. Have a great break. You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
So tell us some of the reasons why you specifically made the move to the rural area of Esk and Toogoolawah, and what sort of a difference that has made, just sort of taking life a little bit more easier.
During that COVID time when everyone was locked down, and obviously myself, I sort of resonate with the buyers we meet every single day out here because I did the exact same thing myself. But I think during that lockdown period, people were just reassessing where they were living, reassessing the lifestyle they were living when they were at home. And there's something that sort of it draws you to move out to the country where you can have space, you can have land, you can raise your kids in a community as well, because one of the reasons we chose out in the Somerset region or the Brisbane Valley is just because it is a very community-minded location. And I think too, the prospects for a lot of people working in the city who might be longing that, they can now operate from home. That's one of the big things which a lot of people discovered during COVID and could have been one of the blessings that came out of it, that the traditional way where people had to commute into the city to work in a corporate building may have been slightly debunked. And obviously there'll always be a need for that, but one of the things we learnt is that it is possible.
All right, so let's have a look at the affordability factor. I'll get you to break that down for us in terms of what somebody can get for a patch of dirt and a bit of lifestyle.
One of the things which we have access to is an abundance of land in our area. Rural properties make up the majority of our market. So if a buyer is looking to buy a hobby or a lifestyle property up to 50, 60 acres, for example, with a home, a pool, infrastructure, sheds, they can do that for under $1 million and most likely cheaper, which just isn't heard of anywhere else.
That's a lot of land, and working from home, of course. Now, that has been the attraction. You talked about that, but I wonder for those who are not self-employed and were able to move into other locations during COVID, only to find now that the office is calling them back. Suddenly, they have a bit of a problem. Have you encountered that with any of your buyers?
Yeah, we have seen businesses or employees being asked to come back to the corporate world. And whilst for some locations it may be an issue due to our proximity, it isn't as concerning for buyers where they haven't had to go and do a backflip and relocate back to the city. Because where we are in Esk, for example, it's just on an hour outside of the city. And I think after people have lived the lifestyle, they'd rather drive 1 hour on the open country roads into work versus driving 55 minutes through the inner city suburbs, through traffic lights and all the congestion every morning. So I think people are saying we're here and we want to stay, and we'll put up with the slightly longer commute.
And I think that it's kind of tapered off as a result of exactly what I was just saying, that the work from home has changed. That dynamic has changed with a lot of companies. How steady is your inquiry rate at the moment from people not only looking to move, say, out of the Sunshine Coast, out of Brisbane, maybe the Gold Coast, but interstate as well?
Yeah, our inquiry levels are still the same levels where they were last year or even the year before. We've obviously got a lot of the people who have decided to commute or leave the city and come live in the country to work from home, but we're also very much a lifestyle destination. We've got access to Somerset and Wivenhoe Dams, the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. It's a very lifestyle orientated place, so whether people have to find employment or get into the industry in our area or work remotely from home or commute, we still have plenty of inquiry out here due to the lifestyle.
The Real Estate Breakfast is on the streets finding out what you think about the current market conditions.
I'm a first-home buyer. I'm starting to look to get into the market. The way the rates are going has created a lot of uncertainty in whether I should do it or should not do it. Everyone is telling me not to. The market will crash and then you'll be out of pocket. With my wife and I, we've been trying to get out there and see what's happening. But I do think that with the interest rates increasing, people will look to sell later and the market will drop a lot and will crash. Hopefully then we'll be able to buy something.
What about your friends and their thoughts?
Oh, they're all the same. Only one of them has bought a property and they say they're struggling at the moment.
Me and my husband, it's a bit unsure about what's going to happen and they keep going up. So, with us, wanting to buy our first property together, it's a bit difficult. A little bit unsure, to be honest. Like we get calls from, real estate agents and all that kind of stuff. And some are saying that, they'll stop the rate rises, but then some are saying that there'll still be increases. So it's just a little bit unsure, to be honest. We're not really sure what we're going to do in terms of buying this year. Yeah, we just don't really know what's going to happen.
What about your friends?
Basically the same. Some are, predicting that, they're going to keep going up, But, that's just what we're hearing on the news. And I think they might be telling us the worst. They're basically the exact same, just really unsure about what's going to happen and just hoping that they're going to stop the rate rises.
If you're serious about real estate, we're serious about delivering the most comprehensive property information every week. You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
Last time we spoke, I identified Adelaide as the darling of our property guides. So for houses, we're looking at Salisbury Plain at a median house price of $480K, and also Old Ranelagh and Modbury. That's about $550 to $590 for median house price. If you are in the market for units, then we're talking about Bedford Park, Salisbury and Mawson Lakes, and median unit price at about $260 to $340, $350.
Gee, that still amazes me, really, especially those unit prices. I mean, they're very affordable.
Very much so. And like I said, when it comes to Adelaide, we had about 40 odd suburbs to choose from.
I can just see the smile on people living in Adelaide this morning, Asti. You're brightening up their morning for sure. Let's have a look at Hobart this morning, and what were a couple of the suburbs that really stood out here?
So for Hobart, some of the suburbs that we've picked, and interestingly enough, these are repeat suburbs in the sense that they're affordable and livable not only for the houses or the units, but houses and units. A good one is Rockaby and also Glenorchy. So both of these suburbs made it as an affordable and livable suburb for houses as well as for units. You're looking at a median house price of about $550 to $600 for houses. And interestingly enough, a similar unit price of about $475 to $540. So similar ranges for both, and these are the places that we would recommend for Hobart.
Now let's have a look at Sydney. What really stood out here for you in terms of suburbs?
So for Sydney, our choices are Villawood, Chester Hill, and Wiley Park for houses, and you're looking at a median house price anywhere between $870 to $1 million. So I know that people say, how can you say that $1 million is affordable? It is definitely not affordable from the dollar perspective, but from a perspective of the fact that Sydney median house price is $1.89 million, this is as affordable as we can offer.
All right, and let's find out what is cooking really well in Melbourne when it comes to affordable suburbs. What did you find?
So Melbourne, definitely slightly lower pricing than the Sydney ones that I've just said. So, there's some good news there already. Point Cook made it into our report for both houses and units. You're looking at a price point of about $730 for a house in Point Cook and about $565 for units. Epping is another one that made it into our report for both houses and units. So you're looking at about a price range of $655 for your median house price.
And last but not least, let's head off to Perth. Got to be a couple of standout suburbs here.
Yes, definitely. For Perth, has definitely had an interesting journey when it comes to the house market because you can find affordable prices as low as $375 in Stratton, but then also 500K houses in High Wycombe. Hopefully I've said that correctly. In terms of units, you're looking also at a price range of about $350, $365 in Forestfield and Morley.
Stay ahead of the competition with the latest news, insights, and data analysis on the Property Podcast that keeps you informed. You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
So what are you telling those on a fixed and variable rate to be aware of right now?
We're right in the middle of this at the moment with our existing clients and with other mortgage holders approaching us. And fundamentally, for a variable rate holder, the sort of guidance we're giving is, number one, call your bank or request your mortgage broker to call your bank and ask for a better rate. Simple stuff. And we're doing a lot of that on behalf of our existing clients. Secondly, once you get that offer from your existing bank, review this against the market. If you haven't got a mortgage broker, you can jump on some of those websites available. If you have got a mortgage broker, discuss with the broker what other offers are available in the market that you might be able to secure. We are finding some banks are offering some better new-to-bank type rates. There are some cashbacks which are phasing out, and rightly so. And there's also some consideration for people to fix, but really focusing on what's the best rate you can get. There is the odd occasion where people are unable to secure a better rate because they become what's called a sort of a mortgage prisoner because of serviceability buffers, but still focusing on your current provider and do what you can. For those on a fixed rate, Craig, just to move to that briefly, what we're really focusing on, what is the impact going to be when you come off your fixed rate? So we look at what the impact will be at that point in time. And then at that point in time, the first thing we do is similarly go to the existing provider and secure the best rate we can for our clients or for people talking to us. Then again, follow that process, compare that to the market, see if there's better options out there. And if they are, use the opportunity and the time to refinance to a better rate if you're in a position to. If you're not in a position to, because you're unable to service or your situation's changed, focus on your budget, your repayments, and getting the best deal you can with your existing provider.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.